Pak Adi, monitor saya. Adi.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. We got your touch yet? So we still have another 15 minutes before we start. But our speaker, Mr. Ananta Yudiarso has joined us. Then welcome to class 4, Pak Ananta. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
For your time for us. Mr. Ananta will deliver about the psychological impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia. And then as the previous, I will give time for Mr. Ananta to try his voice, whether his voice is clear enough or not, as well as try to share screen. Please, Pak.
Yeah.
I already give you a co-host.
Thank you, Pak Adi, for the opportunity to share our reading about the impact of COVID-19 in Indonesia, especially in psychological impact. Everybody can hear my voice? I hope so.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Oh,
okay, then. Right, great. Then I'll try to share my screen. Do you think it's okay?
Yes, I can see it clearly. How about others? Yes, I think others can also see. Okay, Pak. So we will rejoin in the next 15 minutes, Pak. Because we're still waiting till around 1 o'clock and waiting for other participants to join. We actually have around 140 participants from 10 countries, Pak. But sometimes not all of them are able to join each class. So there might be some who are not able to join. But anyway, we also live stream this class on the YouTube.
Okay.
So if those who are not able, they can also join or see the YouTube later on.
Can you mention about the countries? It should be Malaysia,
the countries,
Japan, Korea.
Okay, the countries are Korea, Japan, then China, Bangladesh, India, Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia. We also have Indonesia. Then Philippines, already Philippines. Then Iran.
Oh,
yes.
It's far away.
So, yes,
quite
far away. Okay, so see you in the next 15 minutes, Pak. Please.
Okay, thank you.
Take some coffee or toilet break. See you guys. See you in the next 15 minutes.
Next topic muna tayo. 151st day, di ba? 1 hindi ka naman 81, tapos pa-take up mo naman 68. Habol na talaga. Si Pikachu. Ha? Wala yung damagat. Ay, sige. Segmental niya gula ko. Kahanapan na open dimension. Active 39. Ayan.
Ang bata lang yung design niya, pero ano? Hindi rin ako makatalon.
சீரங்கள் பாருங்கள் பாருங்கள் நிலமே உன்னை வணங்குமே நன்றி கடல் திப்பதே கருவிலே உன்னை ஏந்துமே ஒரு முறை தலைகுனி உனக்கு சிங்க மோகம் அவன் பார்ப்பதற்கு மட்டுமே நெஞ்சில் பதிலை கொண்டு கேறு உன்னை பெண் என்று கேலி செய்த கூட்டம் ஒரு நாள் உன்னை வணங்கிடும் உயர்ந்து நில்லு பலனை கொண்டு கேறு உன்னை பெண் என்று கேலி செய்த கூட்டம் ஒரு நாள் உன்னை வணங்கிடும் உயர்ந்து நில்லு சிங்கப்பெண்ணே சிங்கப்பெண்ணே ஆணினமே உன்னை வணங்குமே நன்றி கடல் திப்பதற்கே கருவிலே உன்னை ஏந்துமே பலனை கொண்டு கேறு உன்னை பெண் என்று கேலி செய்த கூட்டம் ஒரு நாள் உன்னை வணங்கிடும் உயர்ந்து நில்லு அன்னை தங்கை மனைவி உங்கள் நீ அளித்த உயர்வை உங்கள் பாதைக்கு பற்றும் அந்த தீயை அணைத்து நீ பயமின்றி துணிந்து செல்லு
Pwede. Part 2.
Ano lang, puro camera. With battery na yun. Pakatakto lang, mag-extract man. Hindi, ito ay again, order ko nga talaga. Wala, lalagin na niya, puro 48 pa lang. Baka gusto niyang buksan ko ang ano.
I guess the class is supposed to be starting from now, right? Yes. So switched from 1. Is 1 per sec.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's my hometown student.
Wala na yung katolikal mana.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you.
Definitely.
Wala, basta mo yan. Oh, talaga nga nakadikit na nag-bless ako. Hindi ka itsura na, di ba? Teka lang ka. Nalanlanit pa na. Nalanlanit pa lang pa tayo siya. Maglamuhan na dahil. Maka-work from home na kami nag-ito. Oh, hindi pa siya.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon from Bangladesh.
Good afternoon from Surabaya. How's Bangladesh? Is it very hot or not?
Not that much. Winter is about to be started in here.
Oh, good. Surabaya is really hot. So we are exhausted. So hot currently. 35 perhaps the degrees. So yeah. Okay. How was your lunch? You got your lunch? You got
Yes,
full,
indeed.
right?
What about you?
Yeah, I already finished too.
Brother, I have a question. May I go for it?
Pardon?
I checked the schedule and it only there are only few classes, like 6 classes, I guess. But will there be any exam or assignments?
Oh no. There is no exams. Of course, no exams. So this summer program is actually just to add your knowledge, and we don't conduct any exams. But at the conclusion of this summer program, we will ask you to fill the evaluation form. So it is the how satisfaction are you with the program? So it would be on the Google form.
Till now,
So it-
totally satisfied I am.
Pardon?
Till now, totally satisfied I am. That's what I can say.
Okay,
It's good
thank you.
organized. But I expected a WhatsApp group of all the participants so that we can be connected with each other, not only for this program, but sometimes participating in online programs makes lifetime friendship.
Okay. I don't know. I think later we can discuss whether we can share the email of each other or not, because we also facing the privacy law, right? Then
Yeah.
if all agree to share each other email, then you can share it. So we will discuss it later on Friday perhaps. Okay. So thank you for joining us again for the 4th time for the class 4. Today, or for this class, I invited Mr. Ananta Yudiarso. He is one of the lecturers at the Ubaya Faculty of Psychology. Then he will today talk about the psychological impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, I think all of us face psychological impacts, or I don't know, suffering, or we are not get used to it, something new. Because previously we can go outside freely without wearing any mask. We can meet our friends anytime we want, but now we are all limited. Also, during the university life, previously we can meet and see our friends. We can also meet our lecturers face to face. But nowadays, we are not allowed, or we are prohibited to do so. And I believe that kind of behavior changes or habit changes will give the psychological impact, or psychologically will give impact to all of us. Then today, Pak Ananta will discuss about it, and perhaps you can also ask how we should deal with that kind of psychological impacts. Right, Pak?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
And as the opening, I will inform you the CV or the resume of Mr. Ananta. Let me share screen first. Here is his resume or CV. He's one of the lecturers at the Faculty of Psychology. He teaches in bachelor and magister and also doctoral. Do you teach on doctoral degree, Pak?
Not yet.
Not yet, right?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's why. But he teaches in the bachelor and master, right? Master degree. And he graduated from Universitas Gadjah Mada, Yogyakarta for his bachelor and master degrees. He took and quite active taking various courses, short courses and long courses. For example, summer course on neuroscience brain connectivity in Göttingen and Leipzig, Germany. We also once took the summer course on anxiety, depression, and neuroscience in Maastricht University and Degli University, Florence, Italy. So he traveled a lot, right? He took summer course on the cognitive neuroscience at University van Amsterdam, Netherlands. Another summer course on brain genetic imaging on or at both Nijmegen, Netherlands. Berlin aging summer course at University of Groningen, Netherlands. Neuroscience measurement EEG brain wave in Strasbourg, France. Brainwave summer course on Karl Eberhard University, Tübingen, Germany. And last one, he took research internship at the master program in affective neuroscience in Maastricht University, the Netherlands. So without further ado, I will give time and screen to Mr. Ananta. Please,
Yeah.
Pak.
Thank you very much, Pak Adi. It's always
will
privilege and honor for me to share my knowledge about the impact of pandemic, especially COVID-19 in Indonesia. Okay, let's see.
Okay, I stop share screen. You can do it now.
Thank you. Yeah, today we're going to discuss about the psychological impact of COVID-19 in Indonesia, especially psychological impact. Yeah. My background is actually from sociology and psychology. I study about the social psychology, especially in neuroscience. So it's multi-level explanation from the neuron to behavior, actually. So, but I'm not going to explain you about the neuroscience of course in this course. It's only the impact of COVID-19, especially in psychological impact. Yeah, and we focus in Indonesia, of course. And hopefully this is my outline. First, of course, I'm going to explain you at glance about Indonesia, because I think it's very important for you. We hope that you can visit Indonesia, especially our campus in Ubaya or in our third campus outside city is very beautiful. Someday, hopefully, yeah. And also at glance for the COVID-19, I'm not the expert on that virus, but maybe some point that we can learn about the COVID-19. And then we go to the main point about the psychological impact of COVID-19 in Indonesia. And it's not so deep because we're going to discuss and hopefully we can compare with the phenomena in your country. Yeah. So I would like to invite you and welcome you in discussions about the psychological impact in each your country, and also the further implications. But first of all, I'm going to start with the homicides. This is the conclusion, actually. Usually, people get lost during my lecture, so I prefer to choose to give the conclusion first in the very first time in the meeting. Yeah. So this is the model, actually. we have the clinical psychology impact, such as depressions or anxiety. Yeah. So depression actually is mood disorder. You have uncontrollable mood. Sometimes in 2 weeks, you are very, very sad, excessive sad, or very, very anxious. Yeah. And we have 6 types of anxiety, from the panic disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, phobia, and other anxiety or general anxiety disorders, for example. And the number of mental disorder in Indonesia was increased during the COVID-19, especially for depression and anxiety. Yeah. And the second one actually is indirect effect of the COVID-19 because of the impact on economy, for example. There's a threat about the economic recessions, and also the moderator variable, namely Indonesia cultural construct actually. So there's a culture, very cultural, very typical Indonesia, who moderate the phenomena or the impact, especially in psychological impact. Yeah. So this is that we're going to discuss is psychological effect of COVID-19 in psychological matters. First is about the impact work from home, when suddenly you have to change of your daily life, as Pak Adi explained us at the first time of this meeting. And suddenly we don't allow to go to campus, or we don't go allowed to other places without any certain procedure of COVID-19. And the second one is about the stigma. Yeah, people get the stigma or negative thinking or prejudice about the medical worker, for doctor or nurse in Indonesia. Some of you are coming from Indonesia, known already about the news that many of society is reject to funeral of the doctor or nurse in Indonesia. It's a pity actually, but it happened in Indonesia. And also the third one is cyberbullying among the positive and recovered case. So after they have tests or rapid tests or swab tests, PCR, it is not only morally the have to go to hospital, yeah, but after come out from the hospital, they have to dealing with the cyberbullying or discrimination actually, because of they have survivor or positive COVID-19, yeah. And the fourth is paranoia related to the issues. Yeah, this is the related the issues. Why could be happen? I think it's also happen in your country because people is very, very worried about the infection of this virus. So they are excessive thinking about the COVID-19. Yeah, the paranoia, fear, very fear of other people. Yeah, curications, excessive curications, and grief because loss or sudden death of a family or friends, especially in Indonesia. A lot of cases are affected in what do you call it, elderly. Yeah, many of elderly have cases in sudden deaths. Some of them are because of COVID, or some of them is suspect of COVID. Yeah, and the last one is very, very interesting because of the impact in economic and also the depressions. Some of the number domestic violence is increased significant in Indonesia. So that's basically the social psychology impact in Indonesia, and also clinical psychology impact because of the COVID-19. And what to make this impact will be worse is there are a lot, I think it's at least 3. First is about the COVID mutation and the possibility of reinfections. So we know actually that the gene of the COVID has mutated, and there may be 10 or more than 10 strain now. And also the threat of the second wave of pandemic. Yeah, we know from the theoretical, if you read a lot about the news about the pandemic, usually after the first wave, that will be the second wave. Yeah, and the worst case, if you read about what we call by the logistic map, actually, if the rate of or the increase of the populations more than 3% actually is going to be chaotic. Yeah, it's very dangerous actually. Yeah, and then Indonesia is also have another threat from the economic recessions, because last time on the second trimester we have GDP or the economic growth is minus 5.2. So it means if under next will be minus, then very, very dangerous for the economic recessions, which will be have or involve in social psychology impacts. Like people will be, so many people will be fired from the company, and it's more difficult to find the money, for example, or earn the money, and it's going also much more factor to increase the depressions actually. That is why it's have direct relations, the impact of economic into the social psychology impacts. And that's the model actually, yeah. And the most important thing for the psychological is about the hope, yeah. The thing is that the pandemic durations has exceeded the expected time. So from the Statistics Indonesian Survey 2020, many of the respondents have expectations that the pandemic of COVID-19 will be finished or ended in July or August. Yeah, but the reality, even in August or September, is have exceeded the expected time of pandemics. Even there's a worse case here, and the cases still increase sharply, unfortunately. Yeah, and that's really happened actually. The what we call by the psychological impact in Indonesia with the threat of worsening the phenomena of psychological impact. However, yeah, the Indonesia has social capital that might help to deal with this kind of crisis. We have experience to deal with the SARS before, yeah, and very, very successfully. And the second one, we also have experience dealing with the economic crisis in 2008. I still remember because I was a student on that time. Yeah, we are really hard to deal with the change in political change and also the economics, and we are really hard to find or to earn the money during that crisis. Yeah, but we survive anyway. Yeah, so I believe even though there's a lot of threatening, worsening the psychological impact of COVID-19, but we also, or Indonesia also have two very important experience to dealing with this kind of pandemic. Yeah. First is about the experience during SARS, the first SARS. Yeah. And the second one is the economic crisis. Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah. Okay, then I'm going to start with the first part, Indonesia. Those who have already come to Indonesia maybe know that Indonesia is a very wide country. Indonesia is not Bali. Many of our friends from European or America always, oh, you're coming from Indonesia, you should live in Bali. No, Bali is a very small island in Indonesia. It's close to our city, Surabaya. It's 42 minutes actually from Surabaya. So someday if you visit our campus, then you can go to Bali in 42 minutes. Yeah, go to Denpasar, enjoy the beach, enjoy the food. Yeah, and that's Indonesia. We can see the map here. Actually, it's 1/3 of Earth. Actually, from the very western of the Indonesia to eastern. I think it's 6 hours of 6 hours of flight actually, or more. Yeah? It's depend on the flights that you're going to take. Yeah. For example, from Surabaya to Papua, it take maybe 4 or 5 hours by flight. Yeah, directly from Surabaya to Jayapura or Timika. Yeah. Yeah, of course, it's not directly in very line, but it's go to other points. For example, you have to go to Makassar first or Manado first, or Maluku, Manado, and then you reach at the Papua, for example. Yeah, we divide into 3 time zones. Yeah, the Western time zones and also Central and Eastern. You can imagine how wide is Indonesia. Yeah, and it's very famous with the archipelago. A lot of islands. There's 5 big islands like here Sumatra and Kalimantan and Java, where we live here. It's close to Madura, yeah, here, and Bali is here, the red one. Yeah. And we separated with the time zones. Bali is Central Time Zone, and we are living in Western Time Zone of Indonesia. Yeah, yeah. And we have more than 700 languages, traditional languages. You can imagine 700 languages of its islands. Maybe have their own tribes, and each tribe has their own languages. And also more than 300 ethnicity. Yeah, from China, there's also India, Arabic, and indigenous tribe like Dayak or Javanese, or a lot of more than 300. Can you imagine how diverse we are in Indonesia? So if we define about Indonesia, actually we define 700 languages and more than 300 ethnicity living together in the 1,000 islands, namely Indonesia. And that's we define Indonesia. Actually, it's a little bit difficult to define because of the diversity of Indonesia. Yeah, and that, but there are some research try to figure it out what the characteristic of Indonesian citizen. Yeah, and this is the one very famous from the Hofstede. Hofstede is from Netherlands, and his team tried to describe of cultural dimension or cultural construct in each country, and he used like the questionnaire, yeah, and then try to describe the country due to the dimension of the culture. Yeah. So, for example, is power distance, yeah, the extent to which the less powerful member of institutions and organizations with the country expect to and accept that power is distributed unequally. So, for example, Indonesia is very high power distance. Yeah. If you try to apply a job in Indonesia, then you're going to feel that power distance. How for example, the CEO talk to the other officer, the officer talk to common people is very, very high power distance. Yeah. And also describe the country from the individualism, masculinity, uncertainty avoidance. I think this is very important to understand about the uncertainty avoidance in Indonesia. Also in some, not only in pandemic, but also in economic behavior or political behavior, because this is about how we have to obey about the rule, how to accept about the reality, for example. It's very, very important to understand about the behavior in Indonesia. We're going to involve this concept into our analysis, the impact of COVID-19 in psychological matter or psychological phenomena in Indonesia. Also, long-term orientations. Yeah. Maintain some link with its own past while dealing with the challenge of the present and future. So the Hofstede teams try to figure it out, to respond to the challenge about the present and the future. Yeah, whether they have to propose to, for example, behave in order to get the future gain or the future yield, or in the short time of yield or future. Yeah, it's very basic of behavior in Indonesia. Yeah, many of them are very long term, many of them are very short, but the score is a little bit medium in Indonesia. Yeah, 62, if you can see here, the long-term orientations. And also the indulgence, meaning the extent to which people try to control their desire and impulses, yeah, the indulgence. So you can see here that the very low score in Indonesia is very typical as individualism. So we are more collectivism or collective behavior. Yeah. Many orientation are not in individual desire, but in collective or in community. So social group or community is much more important than self, actually. It's very typical in Indonesia, and I think it's so typical countries in Asia, yeah, which is very collective value. They have or more emphasized in collectivity than in individualism, yeah. But it's very unique in Indonesia because we have power descent which is very high, yeah, and also very low in individualism. Yeah, is going to be one important factors, yeah, to understand about the psychological impact because of COVID-19 in Indonesia. Yeah, and that's Indonesia actually. Of course, there's a lot of culture, there's a lot of value. We can make one definition of Indonesia. If people tell you about Indonesia, actually you have very various culture, very various value, and the very various behavior, especially in dealing with the COVID-19. Yeah. And second one, we're going to discuss about the COVID-19. Before I continue, maybe any question from the students or from you, please feel free to ask questions about the Indonesia. I think it's almost the same with the Bangladesh or India. Yeah? India, I think they have English as official, or I don't know. Is there any student from India? Hello?
Yes, there are, but India
Yeah.
and Bangladesh.
Can you explain us? Okay, right. And how many tribes and how many languages did you have actually?
For Indian or for the Bangladesh one?
Both.
Oh,
I just want to compare.
just from India and from Bangladesh, can you type it? How many tribes are in India or in Bangladesh?
Hello?
We have got a lot from, Bangladesh only applies or use one language. Right?
Oh yeah.
How many tribes?
What's
that
language?
you have?
English or? It looks everyone is mute by you, Pak Adi. Is that true?
But they can, they can unmute themselves. But I also
Okay.
encourage it using the chat room rather than it make
Okay.
distraction. By the way, can you make your presentation full screen, Pak?
Okay. Yes, I will.
So make it bigger for the
Of
attendance.
course. Yeah, wait a minute. Which one? Yeah.
Their language in Bangladesh is Bengali.
Bengali. Yeah, Bengali. Bengali. Bengali.
Yeah, we
Is
have
that-
only one language. There's Bengali.
Oh, Bengali.
This is our mother tongue. Yeah, and the English is our second language.
Oh yeah. But it's very, that official language actually is common language only that you use Bengali. But you also use English, right? Like in India.
Yeah, we use English, but for everyday purpose, for daily purpose, we use Bengali. That's our official language.
Yeah.
For every official activities is happening in Bengali. And as
Yeah.
far as my knowledge of India, they have different knowledge. They have different languages in different
Yeah.
states. It depends on their states. For example, in Delhi, it might be Hindi, and for Kolkata, it's also Bengali.
Okay.
The Kolkata people use Bengali, the Delhi people use Hindi. So these types of things. The Gujarati people use different languages. They have different languages.
Oh yeah. How many tribes actually in Bangladesh? I think it's also
In Bangladesh, it's only one. Bengali and English is also used, as we are
The tribes,
we are
the tribes.
yeah, the types is if you consider the types is two, Bengali
tribes.
and yeah, Bengali and English.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the language, but
Yeah.
the tribes.
Tribes. Someone said
Kurd
24.
are
Someone
24.
said
Ah,
24.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's also from
That's also
Bangladesh.
a lot. Yeah, and I would like to emphasize actually, if we talk about Indonesia, for example, or we talk about the Bangladesh, so we should be very carefully to define the behavior or the impact, for example, because what we're dealing with, this is not only one tribe or two tribes, but a lot of tribe, a lot of value inside of that nations, which is going to be a source of the behavior, because we're coming from the psychology, so we are very concerned about this. Yeah, thank you for your explanation about the Bangladesh. So I can imagine how fire is also in your country in Bangladesh.
Yeah,
Thank you, Debasis. Thank you, Debasis.
Yeah, okay. Any questions about Indonesia? Any questions? Please feel free. Maybe people from Philippines. Is there any people from Philippines?
Yes, many.
Hello, Filipino. The English is very excellent, actually. I always found Philippine people or Indian or Bangladesh in Europe. Very easy to find them. And they speak English well, and sometimes they speak Germany and also speak French fluently. Hello? Who's from the Philippines?
Quite a lot. Around 40 or 50.
Yeah.
No problem, Pak. You can continue.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's the Indonesia cultural construct defined by 7 or 6 construct by Hofstede from Netherlands. Yeah. Now about the COVID. Yeah, we know that the COVID is infectious disease. Yeah, because by newly discovered coronavirus, first in China, then Indonesia is beginning on the 2nd of March. Actually, we declared that there are 2 cases, and now it's growing very fast. The number of cases are infected in Indonesia, and most people infected with COVID-19 actually is almost with the SARS symptom. Yeah, from mild to moderate respiratory, and illness can be recovered without any requiring special treatment actually. So in this time, we need a really good immune. Yeah. We know that the respiratory failure is obviously the main cause, as like the SARS case. Yeah. And it's almost like viral pandemics in Spain. It was 1918 actually. Yeah, I believe some of the country also suffer with this pandemic or Spanish flu. Indonesia also on that time. Yeah, in 1918. Yeah, and the key actually is the number of the ECMO. Yeah, or extracorporeal membrane oxygenations. Maybe we need like a ventilator in order to help the patients to breathe, because we know that the COVID always try to damage the lung and also the other using what we call by the cytokine storm. Yeah, there's a lot of evidence and growing also theory that severe acute respiratory syndrome is stimulate what we call the cytokine storm. Yeah, so it's the factor that contribute the mortality the patient of COVID-19. So far that we know in psychology, we also learn about the psychoneuroimmunology, and we know actually that the psychological state is going to influence our immune system, and one of the immune system will be the fit of the COVID or the virus, yeah, as the pathogen. So that is why now it's growing or increase there is the relation between or the mechanism of psychoneuroimmunological characteristic in the human body is very important in order to understand about the COVID-19. It's not only to understand, but also to think about the interventions, especially in psychological interventions, in order to reduce the impact of the COVID in our health, and also in our mental health. Because now also growing that some of mental health disorder or mental disorders have etiology in virus or viral hypothesis about some mental. So for example, schizophrenia or depression, some of article explain that it might be a viral infectious. So we can have knowledge that cytokine storm actually very important in COVID-19 symptom and going effect in our respiratory disease, and from the respiratory disease is going also to impact directly to our mental state or psychological state. So you can imagine if you are breath hold for example, more than 26 seconds, actually, you're going to develop what we call by the panic attack, actually, because of the hypoxia and also hypercapnia. Yeah. So you can imagine the patient of the COVID-19 who very, very hard in breathing or very difficult in breathing, have a difficult in the respiratory system that make them very anxious. Yeah. I see or I watch in the YouTube about the patient who are very difficult in respiratory system, quite difficult to breathe and only want to, and he got very anxious and also panic actually. Yeah. So COVID actually have two kind of impact. First, indirect impact to the symptom of mental disorder is related to anxiety or anxiety disorders or general anxiety disorders, for example. And the other one is mood disorder, namely depression. Depression is mood disorder. So when your respiratory interfere with COVID-19, actually the blood saturation will be changed. Yeah. And we know actually if the blood saturation change or decrease, for example, 95% or 90%, then actually you are in grave dangers because all of your organ in your body will be not have a good supply of the oxygen. And you can imagine if one of portion of the organ, if the brain who have a very limited oxygen, then the neuron will be lack of the oxygen. We call it hypercapnia, or it's going to be like brain acidity. Then you're going to develop the psychological mental disorders like panic attack or the mood disorder or depressions. Yeah. And this article, actually, two articles explain about the cytokine storm in COVID-19 and also the possibility of cytokine storm maybe can be viewed from the psychoneuroimmunological perspective. Yeah. So actually, the implication is the research in central nervous system to interfere with the psychoneuroimmunological method. Yeah. The psychoneuroimmunological method actually try to understand the relation between the psychological state, yeah, for example, your emotions, anger, or happy, with the immune system. So in Indonesia, for example, many people try to not to be sad because they knew exactly if they sad, then the immune will be slowing down. And if the immune is slowing down or is not effective anymore, then the COVID is much easier to affect you or to infect you, yeah, because your immune is slowing down. Yeah, that's only the very banal explanations about the COVID and cytokine storm because I'm not the expert on that explanations about the cytokine storm. Anyway, I would like to emphasize that the COVID-19 have direct effect to mental disorder, and they are to, in other hand, also give opportunity for us to have non-invasive interventions in order to improve your immune system in your body using the psychological states. So meditations or watching televisions with your happy Korea drama or any other TV show that make you happy will be help a lot in order to make your immune stronger. Yeah. And this is the update COVID-19 Indonesia today, 22nd of September. Now there are 9,000, almost 10,000 deaths actually in Indonesia, but recovered is much higher, 184,000 has been recovered from the COVID, and the cases is increased now. So you can see the graphic here is more increase, and it's always ups and down. You can see here, and actually you can try to calculate the graph using the logistic map actually, and you can see the end of the graph will be very pivot point, meaning it's quite difficult to predict actually, because are we going to slowing down, or are we going to increase more, even very steep increase the number of people infected with COVID-19? We have no idea about this, because the graph actually is linear, but it's not linear as usual. Yeah, we can see here it's very fluctuative. Yeah, but hopefully on the next year it's going to decrease. Yeah, but it's only hope. Yeah, but if you could calculate in any math model, for example, with logistic map, actually, if the increase is more than 3%, actually, is, for example, 4 point something is very dangerous, because it's going to be fractal, it's going to be more unpredictable. Yeah. So the key is make the increase of the rate of the growth of the patient with the COVID is less than 3%, 3.4 actually. Yeah. More than that is, yeah. So you can see here the cases and also recovered and the deaths in each location in Indonesia. For example, in East Java, in our province, me and Pak Adi live in East Java. Unfortunately, we have very high cases, 41,000, and recovered is 33,000, and the death is more than 3,000. The deaths because of the COVID-19. Yeah. The second one, because it's Jakarta, is the capital city of Indonesia. Yeah. It's also very high, but the death is lower than in Surabaya or in our province. So that is why this summer course is only online. You can visit our province because the death is still high. Yeah. Okay, and that's the update from the Indonesia. However, if you compare with the other country, in comparing Indonesia among other country, actually it's not so bad. Yeah. So for example, here, Indonesia is between Belgium and Germany. Yeah. The number of the deaths is 9,000, and also the death rate here. Yeah. But we're still higher in Indonesia, 3.98. It's 3, as I told you. If you use this growth rate of people who infected in a pandemic, it's going to be dangerous because it's almost 4. Yeah, if you use the logistic map equations, then you can find that the growth more than 3.4 or 3.6 actually will be a result of bifurcation point and also fractal or chaotic, meaning it's quite difficult to predict for the future. But if you can, decrease of the growth, then it's going to be much easier to predict. Yeah, this is the actual data. Yeah, by September 16, 2020. And this is the clinical psychological effect of COVID-19 in Indonesia. So there's a research recently held by Dede Nasrullah, yeah, also endocrinologist, about the coronavirus in Indonesia and the psychological effect. Actually, there's a lot of, but the results are almost the same. First, they asked the respondent to fulfill the DESS 42 questionnaire, actually depression, anxiety, stress scale, and the participant is 2,264 participants. Yeah, and the result of the study found that this is very important, that 67.7% people in Indonesia were experiencing anxiety due to COVID-19 outbreak. So you can imagine this is almost 70% of our citizens have anxiety dealing with this COVID. Yeah, I believe it's increased because the period of the COVID is not end yet, and even worse. Yeah, so we can see actually in some province, especially in my province, it's still high, but some other province is decreased now. So it's very fluctuative if you compare one area to other area. Yeah, and also 20% of our populations experience depressions, meaning have disorder in their mood. Yeah, there's a difference between anxiety and mood disorders, because the anxiety is fear, reactions about the situation or conditions, but the depressions is about the mood. Could be positive or could be negative. Yeah, there's a lot of kind of depression. So, for example, major depressions or bipolar depression, for example, 6 months you are very happy, very energetic, and the next 6 months you're going very depressed, not wanting to talk to other people, very bad mood, yeah, very sad, excessive sad, and other symptom of the depression. So, for example, loss of the weight of the body more than 5 kilos in 1 month, for example. Yeah. If you want to study deeper about this, you can read on DSM-5 about the symptom of depressions. Yeah. But actually, in order to diagnose, you need a psychiatrist or psychologist. Yeah. Okay, that the clinical effect of COVID-19 in Indonesia, the direct effect. Yeah, there are depressions and anxiety, and we know that almost 70% or 67.7% of people in Indonesia experience anxiety, and also 27% have depressions. Yeah, I think it's because the direct effect of COVID also possible to explain these situations. Many of suspect people actually never declare that they have positive COVID, or maybe they don't know that they are suspect. Maybe the people never have checked out about their positive or negative for the COVID-19, and the COVID have influence to the blood saturations, and the blood saturation will be affected to our nervous system, central nervous system, and in our central nervous system, especially in neurotransmitter, will change due to the COVID. Might be it produce or make people have depression or anxiety symptom. Yeah. It's almost like when people have high fever, for example, in fever dengue, actually. Also people have nausea or paresthesia sometimes, and actually just feel very anxious also, yeah, as well. That is why we call it, this is the direct effect of the COVID-19 to psychological mental health or mental disorders. Yeah. Okay, that's the direct effects. Now, how about the social psychology effect? There are five effects, yeah, in social psychology. First is about the impact of the situation of lockdown or quarantine. Yeah, after the government announced the first victims, yeah, or positive COVID-19 in 2 March 2020, there are a lot of our governor in some province have not lockdown, but they call it limited quarantine. Yeah, limited quarantine. Yeah, in some area of the province. And there's people very depressed because they can't go anywhere. If they go out, then when we come back, they have to follow the order for the COVID-19 procedure. So, for example, they have to have doctoral exams by the rapid test or the swab test PCR, for example. And if there is positive or reactive, then they're going to send to some quarantine hotel or some quarantine, or they have a choice to be self-quarantine. Yeah, but it's not going to good because they have to stay for almost at least 2 weeks or 14 days. Yeah, stay at home for 14 days because they just go out from the province, or when they come back to the province or to the city, because they're coming from very high infected or infectious COVID-19 in the area. Yeah, and because of the case is getting increase, some of governor, for example, in Jakarta, back to this restricted policy. Yeah, so they're going to semi-lockdown actually in Jakarta. Yeah, but it's not lockdown actually, but it's a semi-lockdown or restricted social in Jakarta because they don't want also to lock down the economic activity because the economic is also important. So the choice is they dead because of the COVID, or they're going to die because of hungry, because they need to work, they need money, and they need to earn the money for the family. Yeah, and it's very difficult for the government, of course, in this kind of situation. And the second one is about the stigma or negative perceived among the health professionals. Doctor, nurse, yeah, is another issue, but also happen almost in all provinces in Indonesia. Yeah, many of our society has a negative thinking about the nurse because they're going to be a carrier of the COVID-19, and they're very worried about that. It's just because in the fourth explanation, because it's developed a paranoia-related issues. Yeah, if you see about the pandemic in Indonesia, there are almost like two stages. First, they underestimate about the COVID-19. Even they don't believe that the existence of the COVID-19. So they don't want to use masker, they don't want to use face protector or PPA, yeah, personal equipment device, yeah. They don't want to wash their hands, yeah, just because they don't believe that the COVID is exists, yeah. But after the family or the relative have COVID and die because of the COVID, they develop like the, in vice versa. In other hands, they develop like the fear of being infected by this virus. Yeah. So because of this fear, make them have the negative perceived for the doctor and the nurse, which just come back from the hospital. They know exactly that the hospital is the epicentrum of the COVID-19 because a lot of the patients of COVID-19 are in hospital, of course. Yeah, and this is the Pak Joko Gunawan research in Chulalongkorn. Yeah, Some of you are coming from Thailand, and Chulalongkorn is a very famous university. I've been there before. It's close to Paragon, actually. I was so surprised with this
Same
university.
Paragon.
Yeah, it's a Paragon, you know.
Mall, right?
It's very close to very close to the downtown actually, and a lot of Indonesians and also people from ASEAN, Japan, and the other countries is in this university. It's a really good one, I think. Yeah, the stigma, because of development of paranoia-related issues, the fourth issues of the impact of the COVID-19, and the third is actually it's not the cyberbullying, it's the real bullying, when people have positive in rapid test, for example, and they are afraid to coming up that they are positive or they are reactive to the rapid test. But actually rapid test is not to diagnose that they have COVID, because usually after the rapid test, then they have to continue with the swab test with the PCR, and after the test of the PCR, they just confirm that they have positive or not. Even though they just rapid test, they still receive the negative stigma or negative perception for other people. So you can imagine, for example, you are just go outside from the outside city from Surabaya, and you are come back because you have as usual flu, then you are reactive in rapid test. Then every people will know you that you are reactive to the rapid test, and many people will have no contact with you anymore. They try to avoid you. They try to align you. It's like the alienation actually, because they try really to avoid to meet you or to face-by-face communication with you, or even sometimes in social media. Then that's the stigma, and also happen to not only for professional but also the people who have reacted to rapid tests. So you can imagine if you are just diagnosed by positive COVID-19, then people will really discriminate you as well. I have a friend who positive COVID-19, and he write in Facebook, tell everybody that he have examined with swab PCR, and the result is very sad because he has a positive. And many of people actually, two kind of a poll. The first poll is very, very happy because he just coming up, he just tell us about the result that positive. So people more aware about the conditions, and they much easier to trace, how many people that contact with him. But the other one is very, very negative, because actually he didn't have to explain to other people, and just self quarantine is that will be enough, because the effect of the panic, the effect of the fear that the people, but it's a different ways to think about the result of the positive from COVID. And that the stigma, and also bullying or discriminations among the people who have reactive in rapid test and also positive in swab test. The fourth is in our society. From psychological perspective, we observe that there is a paranoia-related issues. There are a lot of explanation about this. First, usually for example, in our attitude theory, explained by the professor from Massachusetts, Fishman Assens, planned behavior. Actually, belief is very important in develop paranoia or stigma or bullying phenomena in COVID victims. Why? Because belief is the source of behavior. When they believe that people have positive of COVID, they also believe that this COVID could be influenced or could be infected him or her. And they know exactly the result of the COVID-19, difficult in breathing, yeah, painful in breathings, and the doctor couldn't help the patients, and they have to die because lack of the oxygens, and it's very threatening for the people who have think about the consequence to be infected by COVID-19. Yeah, that's the belief actually. Once you change the belief actually, yeah. If, for example, you have believed that COVID-19, even though the result of deadly patients, but of them, you can see the ratio between the death and the survivor actually now is higher for the survivor. Then you're going to change for the belief itself. Yes, accepted that the COVID-19 is very dangerous, but you can live with it. Yeah, but at the general level, actually, we can say that we're not going on that state to accept that COVID is part of our society, part of our behaviors, part of our consequence when we are go out. Yeah. And the fifth actually is related to the post-traumatic stress disorders, is related to complicated grief and feeling guilty after death of the loved one. Yeah, many of our people, yeah, at the first time very underestimate about the COVID-19. They thought that or they don't believe that COVID exists because they have been around, wandering around, and still healthy in their daily life. But after they knew exactly, saw by their eyes, or the behavior of their eyes, that people that they love, the friends that they love, is dying or dead because of the COVID-19. Then suddenly it's changed brutally. Yeah, that they are very, very fear, yeah, about this COVID. Yeah, then also grief and feeling guilty because underestimate of this virus, and make them very, very thinking about the consequence having COVID-19. Yeah. This one actually also the impact of COVID-19 is about the domestic violence actually. But actually it's not, the etiology is not coming from central nervous system, for example, or directly from the COVID, but it's the etiology is coming from the economic situations sometimes, yeah. Or also because of depressions, of the anxiety, because the fear of fears, they're more aggressive. You know, the depressions and the anxiety, the etiology is serotonin. And we know that the serotonin actually is the source of the aggressive behaviors. So the more you're anxious, the more you are depression, actually, the serotonin is more active. And it could be the factor that you are going to be aggressive. Yeah. So in psychology, we learn about the adolescents, and the adolescents' age are more sensitive, more aggressive because of this neurotransmitter, namely serotonin. Yeah. So from the data, yeah, from the Recaled Foundation in Indonesia, they found that increased significantly in domestic violence in Indonesia, and it's in line with the other data. For example, from the Ministry of Women and Child Protections, yeah, for example, they also confirm that the domestic violence, and I think it's just because not only the psychological matter, but also the economic development or economic impact from COVID-19. Yeah. So you can imagine if you are a parent or a dad or a mom who have one or two children, and you are very, how do you call it? Your earned income is only one source from your company, for example, or your manufacturing company. Then the manufacturing is going down because of the pandemic, and they close and they just fire you, or they just not fire, but they just close the company, and they don't have any any pensions and also have any what do you call it, social help. Yeah. So usually if you're in Europe and you lost your how do you call it, your work or your job, then the government will provide you around maybe 600 euro or 800 euro for 6 months until you get the new job. Yeah. But here in Indonesia, the system is quite different. Yeah. And this makes suffer for the family who have fired from the company because of the company closed because of the pandemics. And you can imagine how to relieve the stress. Sometimes they use the children, and also they're going to a lot of conflict in their family. And that's this way, the domestic violence. Father have violence to mother or vice versa, and parents to children, and also children to the parents, is possibly also. Yeah. So that's because not only merely from the psychological matters, but also the economic matter. Yeah. Yeah. This one is how we understand about the pace or states in Indonesia dealing with the pandemic, yeah, COVID-19. Yeah. So the Kubler-Ross change curve is very familiar and very famous to understand about the psychology of dying, actually. So when the people dying, actually, or have a very, how do you call it, a big problem, yeah, they're going to to have to dealing with this kind of curve here. First, usually the denial. Yeah. Imagine that, for example, your mom or your father or your beloved ones pass away, for example. First, our reaction is try to denial, yeah, to deny. No, I don't believe that the news is true. No, that's wrong news. It might be the same name, but different persons or any, yeah, whatever it is, you deny that. That's not true for me. Yeah, that we call it the denial states on that. Yeah. So there's status quo. You want to pretend that there is no change outside, no sad news, no bad news. And the reactions usually shocks or denial. People who heard that people that he or she love pass away because the COVID-19 will be shocked, will be denial. Try to defend that the reality is not correct. Maybe the same name, but the other persons, maybe this is wrong news, maybe the wrong persons, etc., etc. Yeah. But his or other people we communicate the informations. You're going to try to look for the information, which is correct or not. Yeah. Then, if you find or we find that the news is correct, then we're going to be the next stage, frustration and depressions. This is maybe our society in Indonesia is now entering this kind of stage, yeah, frustration and depressions. We believe that actually maybe the COVID will be end in the next July or August. But the fact, now it's September 22nd, even the Jakarta is semi-lockdown again. And in our province, for example, in East Java, the rate or the growth of people infected with COVID is increased sharply. Yeah. So people have frustrations. Yeah. Because of disruption, because the anger, fear of the conditions. Yeah. You want the pandemic will be over, but the reality is going worse. Yeah, the number is still increased. Yeah, so there's like anger, also fear that you're going to be one of the victims, that you are going to be infected with the COVID-19. Yeah, so people try or dealing with this kind of states with watch, listen, and in positive way support each other. Or it's okay. For example, in our city, if one of, for example, in our neighborhood, there are 2 people who are positive COVID-19, and we support, full support of them. Actually, this is the expression of our fears, and also listen to them, watch them, and also actually to make almost like a jail actually, but it's very good jail because we support all of the consumptions, food, water, and any needs that they need during in 14 days of self-quarantine. Yeah, to make them so happy because we know that when they are full supported and they're happy, the immune will be higher or stronger than they could deal with the virus. Yeah, so that's the state of protests and preparations with the approach of watch, listen, and support. Yeah, and then after the preparations, yeah, very sad, excessive sad, and frustrations. A lot of hope is not coming yet. Yeah, it's far away. We hope that it's going to be finished, but the reality is maybe it's more 1 year, or we don't know. Maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. Yeah, and the depressions, of course, the change of mood, our moods. Yeah, then we're going to exploration. Or this is very important. I believe many people in our society has reached this kind of states. Acceptance. Yeah, there is a virus will be very dangerous. Yeah, I could be the one who infected by that virus. Yeah, I could be have symptom difficulty in breathing, and I could be dying because of that. Yeah, that's we call it the acceptance. That because of the acceptance, then you don't want to hide anymore. You don't want to be depressed anymore. You don't want to be frustration, and you don't want to deny all that the dangers. So in this state, Exodus is very positive way because they accept about the pandemic, yeah, with its all the consequence of the pandemic. Then he could survive because they accept that, even though it's very dangerous and sometimes he could infected by the virus. If something bad happened, or worse happened to him or to her, is going to accept that because it's one of the consequences of the being humans. Infected, going to be die is very natural. Yeah, and it's quite difficult actually to reach into that stage. Yeah, yeah. And the approach is give time to explore and test. Yeah, testing the reality, of course. Yeah. Okay. I'm out. I use the right procedure. I'm using masker. I'm using face sleeve. I'm using glove, and nothing happened to me. Yeah. And I explore again and again and again and accept. Yeah. And the last one is decisions. Yeah. And rebuilding and commitment. Yes. If I have to go outside with all the protocols, and so far I accept that as the new normal, then it's going to be integrated with society again, not only self-quarantine in a very short apartment or house. Yeah, and so it's going to be a real new normal. We hope all of the society could reach in this stage. Yeah, but in our idea, due to the data and also the increase of depressions, the increase of anxiety, yeah, the still increase of the death of the patients infected by the COVID, I believe that we are in first and second stage. Yeah, some of us in society who has experience, who has accepted this in a very small number, it has been reached in the third stage, yeah, in acceptance states due to the COVID laws. Yeah, and Indonesia should empower people or empower citizens in order to accept of the COVID. Yeah, our president has a good how to call it a good speech, and he stated that we have to get used to it, living with COVID-19, because COVID-19 is not going to be vanished at all. It's almost like flu or influenza, who always can come in every day or every seasons or the time that we have any idea where it's going to be occur or it's going to become to us. Maybe it's going to infect our children, it's going to be infected our parents, it's going to be infect us. We have no idea when and where. Yeah, that the thing is we can accept it. Yeah, that should be empowered. But from the data, we can see that the denial is still a lot. You know, in social media in Indonesia, there are recently 2 or 3 video who deny that the virus is conspiracy theory from the government in order to have advantage from the society. 2 or 3 or 4 movie, yeah, they're very bravely to state that yes, I can go to hospital and I can kiss the patient of COVID-19, for example, yeah, and also some of them have the video criticize the government and state that the COVID-19 is how do you call it, scenario from the government in order to postpone the election, yeah, for the mayor or the governor, yeah, just a lot. Actually, they are not so, how do you call it? They are not so low educations. They are even high educations, yeah, from the higher education society. However, actually, from psychology, we can understand because these people or this community is still in the first stage of the Kubler-Ross, the need to defense from the pandemics. Yeah, so people have their own states, people have their own style, people they have their own ability in order to deal with this pandemic. But anyhow, the Kubler-Ross try to help us to explain the stages how to dealing with the situations of the pandemic. It's almost like the people dying actually. Yeah. So first innocent position is maybe in third stage. Yeah. Denial of rotation or this one, but this may be small, or still shock and still denial, and small proportions will be have the decision here, maybe, yeah, or instead of the acceptance, yeah. But I believe for denial, frustration, depressions is higher number comparing with the acceptance and commitment, yeah. That's from the Kubler-Ross change curve. If you want to analyze about the impact of COVID-19 in Indonesia, yeah. Okay. And this is what the government have done so far. Yeah, just a lot of policy, yeah, in order to prevent or in order to dealing with the impact of COVID-19. So, for example, the PSBB or large-scale social restrictions. Yeah, so actually it's almost like lockdown in Korea or in China, especially in Wuhan at that time. But it's restricted, meaning it's not totally restricted for people or car or any other transportations to go in out from city. Yeah, but they still have allowed to go to the city with some certain activity, but very limited. Yeah, some of the city also use the public policy, namely micro PSBB or micro scale social restrictions, MSSR. So for example, in West Java, I know in Bandung, for example, they use the micro scale social restriction, meaning if you find someone who have positive COVID-19, that's going to be traced or tracked. Then after they know how many people who have contact with him and where is he or she stay in the city, and that they're going to lock down that area, but it's very small area. Yeah, that's happened with the micro scale social restrictions. Yeah, we have no idea what kind of a policy in your country. Is your country also applied of this kind of social restrictions? I don't know. Maybe India. I really want to know the story from India. Hello, anyone student from India?
How about you finish it first, Pak?
Siapa?
You finish it
first.
first?
Okay, okay.
Yeah, then we
Okay,
will
okay.
continue with discussion.
Okay, thank you, thank you. There also support, for example, social security program. Yeah, there's like a social security program there. Social security program, meaning the government will be support in the area that they have restricted area, known as restricted area. It was in Surabaya, for example, for 2 weeks. Many of government officer goes down to or went down to street and they provide of food for the people because they can go anywhere. They have to stay at length for 2 weeks. Yeah. At the national level, the also committee for handling COVID-19 with national economic recovery. So there's a conflicting area. One hand, you have to increase your economic growth. And in other hand, you have to stop the communications or people interactions, because the higher interaction among the people, the higher rate will be for the infections. Yeah, and it's always combine or try to make a good combination between two. Yeah, the health because of the threat of COVID-19 or the economy in Indonesia. And actually, our presidents prefer to, to make priority in health first. Yeah. So that is why, for example, in Jakarta, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, there's like they apply again about the PSBB or large-scale social restrictions again in Jakarta. Yeah, it was like slow down about the LSLR or social restrictions, but now they have closed again the Jakarta using the large-scale social restrictions. So people have to be in very tight procedure in order to go to Jakarta or to enter in Jakarta. Yeah. Okay, this is the big data from March and April due to the statistics in Indonesia actually. Besides the negative effect or negative impact from the COVID, actually, the COVID also have positive impact, change the Indonesian behavior, especially in economic behaviors. First, for example, many of our society now is preferred to work from home, like what I did now with you. And the second ones, they decrease, of course, because the consequence, they decrease working in office because so the office could save a lot of money from that. The electricity, the water, the air conditions, the internet connections. So they could a lot of safe and more effective actually. Yeah, and the second one is about the mobility itself. Yeah, I believe the system will not be finished after the pandemic because they know exactly how to work from the remote. Yeah, they could work from home, they could from anywhere actually, and it support with the change of society into the new kind of society, namely 4.0 or society 5.0. Everything is so connected with the internet. Yeah, everything could be accessed by the internet. You don't need to go to office, you need to go to university, except for the lab. For example, if you're coming from the pharmacy or medicine, there is no otherwise you have to go to lab or the hospital in other way to practice. Yeah, and that's the big data. So you can see here the change. 16%, 16.5% decrease work from office, and increase almost 10%, 9.5% people prefer to work from home. Yeah, which is good actually, because it's increased or accelerate the change from society 5.0 or industrial 4.0. Yeah. And this is data from the big data analysis from many cities in Indonesia. The change from mobility of the place of the work and the in the house. Yeah, so you can hear the activity in house is more darker, meaning a more higher number. Yeah. In vice versa, you can see mobility in office from the dark color into the clear color. Yeah, meaning less people walk in the office. Yeah, so that's the good news actually. Yeah. Okay, and how about the worry or the fear or the affective, the emotion of the people dealing with this COVID? Yeah, this is the Statistic Indonesian survey in 2020. Yeah, 65% worry about media coverage because the change from work from office into work from home, and you always connected with the internet, so it's quite difficult to avoid about the media coverage. Yeah, usually, for example, me and my friends usually have Zoom or the platform, and also use other platform like the WhatsApp group, and we do it simultaneously. Yeah. So, for example, here I also use the WhatsApp group, and sometimes I check it out what the news. Yeah, and they worry about the media coverage actually. Yeah, 65%, almost 70%. Yeah, 48.35 worry about self-health, and 57.27 worry about family health. So you can imagine, I not so afraid actually about my self-health. I believe that I could deal with this kind of virus. So less than 50% in Indonesia is worried about self-health. But take a look, 57.20% worry about family. When they talk about the family, they even more worry about the family health than their self-health. It's very typical people who living in culture collectivity. Yeah. So you can see here in Indonesia, for example, extended family is very common here. Yeah. If you compare it with the European people, or maybe I don't know, in Japanese or in Korea, but in Indonesia, it's very common for student after graduate from university, they still stay in their parent house. Yeah. But I don't think this is normal in European country. Yes, depend on actually, but usually after the high school or during in their bachelor degree, they're going outside of home and they go to dormitory or they just rent their own apartment. Yeah. This is represent the value of collectivism in our society. Yeah, and now because it's the survey taken at March maybe, and the paranoia related to COVID is developed highly. We can see here, worry about going out, people thinking twice before they go out. Yeah. If you see in Surabaya, actually, Surabaya is also almost like Bangkok. Yeah. A lot of the mall, mall like the Paragon, close to Chulalongkorn, and you will enjoy a lot actually when you go to Surabaya, because the mayor is very well educated in architecture, and she know actually how to arrange or a good master plan for the Surabaya. So everywhere you can find a garden, flowers, beautiful tree actually. Yeah, but take a look this one because people worry about going on. Yeah, so develop the paranoia related to the COVID. If you see the states actually still in the second stage: frustrations, yeah, depressions, anger, and fear. Fear of fear. Yeah, it's very a lot of fear, with a high intense of fear that make you very afraid when you are going out. Yeah. And this is very important. Almost 70% or 68% believe that pandemic will be ended on May or July 2020. So at the first stage, actually, on March or April, people believe that the pandemic will be over or ended on May or July or August, actually. But now it's September, and even the number of the infected people has increased significantly. Yeah. So the graphic is not linear anymore, but it's much more in exponential type, even though it's ups and down like in logistic map. Yeah. And that's actually that I'm afraid of, because the data is very chaotic. For example, in some area are slowing down, the other area is increasingly so steep, yeah, or significant, but is going to change on the next day. Yeah, the fluctuations, the change of data is very fast. Yeah, so actually it's quite difficult to make a conclusions. But however, many of the participants or respondents believe that the pandemic will be ended on May or July 2020. Yeah, that's not going to happen, because now is September and we still have very high cases, especially in East Java or in Surabaya. Even though there's a lot of bad news about the COVID. Yeah, actually in economic, we have a little bit very refreshed because of our government achievement. Yeah. So first, about the change of behavior, the economic behavior. People use money, change into online. Yeah. If you go to China, it's very impressive. We have Upaya have a collaboration with Zhejiang University, and every years from 10 years, we always go to Zhejiang University, and we know exactly what the change in China. People on that time, for example, in 2015 or 2016, exactly still use the money or the credit cards, but suddenly there is no credit cards. It's only like the handphone or use the online Alibaba, Alipay, and other. Even if you go to remote area in China, they have changed from conventional way in trading into the online payment. Yeah, and also Indonesia happened as well. Yeah, when people develop the paranoia, then people try to avoid face-to-face communications. Then there is no other way. Instead, use the cash. So they prefer to choose the online system. Yeah. So we can see here that many times of increasing in online trading or online economic behavior. Yeah. Sorry, in Indonesia. Also, we can see the economic growth in second trimester of Indonesia. Yeah, we know exactly all of the country will be slowed down or even have retraction for the economic growth. So we are almost like the other country. Our economic growth has been decreased until a negative rate. So we can see here, Indonesia in the second trimester is minus 5.32. Yeah. With the domestic brutto 3 billion 0.6, yeah, minus 5. But if you compare with the other country, if you compare with the other country, then we can say that actually Indonesia is pretty good, because it's number 5, number 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 maybe. Yeah, Indonesia still a good one, comparing with Nigeria, Israel, Poland, Bulgaria, Sweden, Denmark, even comparing with Netherlands, minus 9. United States, yeah, or for example, Spain or UK, for example, minus 21 or 22.1 for the second trimester of GDP. Yeah. So yes, we accept that the COVID have economic impact that will be involved also in psychological impact. Yeah, especially for depression, anxiety, and also other social psychology impact. Yeah, domestic violence and etc. However, we're still optimistic that Indonesia could deal with this and get through this pandemic well. Yeah, hopefully. This is the last one, the further implication. Yeah, so we know actually the COVID-19. Yeah, there's a lot of mutations and there's a lot of strain who maybe change the gene of the COVID as a virus. Yeah, and the second one is the threat of the second wave of pandemics. Yeah, if you use, for example, the math model of logistic map, if you take the growth of exponential number 3.4 or 3.6, then it's going to be chaotic, meaning no one could predict when the epidemic could be over or ended. Yeah, and COVID also directly influence to clinical psychology impacts. Yeah, go to depression, anxiety because of the cytokine storm that influence our blood saturations, and its blood saturation is not good. For example, 65 or 60 or 90%, less than 95%, it means in our blood is less oxygen, and it means also our organ inside our body, for example, the brain and central nervous system, and also any organ with the lack of the oxygen. And you can imagine what will be happen if have this kind of low oxygen saturated in our blood, namely hypoxia. Some of the researchers namely of this condition by happy hypoxia or silent hypoxia. People didn't realize that he has hypoxia until they get a death or sudden death because of the silent hypoxia. Yeah. Another influence, direct influence, is that clinical psychological impact. Because of the saturations, it could be change the neurotransmitter in our brains, because the blood will be get through what we call by blood-brain barrier and influence the mechanism of neurotransmitter in our brains, and that stimulate the depression and anxiety. Yeah, and this could be also influence to the other social psychology impacts. Yeah. For example, the impact of work from home, stigma because of the fear to be infected with COVID, and he or she didn't want to show or get closer to other people who has infected or people who work with this this virus. Yeah, and it's getting increase, make people have paranoia related issues. When the people have their relative got the virus and die because of the virus, that is going to be severely grief. Yeah, and then because of the economic, then also the other psychological impact on domestic violence. So we can see here that the take-home message, if you want to see Indonesia, the impact of the psychological variable on our society because of the COVID. You have to remember that there is a COVID itself. That's also character of Indonesian people, as Hofstede state about the how do you call it? The power distance, also the individualism, yeah, also uncertainty avoidance, yeah, indulgence, yeah. Then it's going to be a moderate variable in impact on economy, go through social psychological impact, yeah. So, for example, in some economic, Indonesia culture construct, for example, uncertainty avoidance. You know, Indonesia is actually didn't like certainty. Yeah, it's quite different with Japan or Japan people or Germany people. Yeah, I've been in Netherlands for 2 years actually in Maastricht University. I've been working in Vets Federal Hospital with Professor Eric Rie, and we talk about our culture because he asked me, Ananta, why you always late in the class? Then I explained actually in our culture, if you invite people 7 EM, then the people will, you know, come at 7:10 or 7:15. That would be okay, but not in Netherlands or in German, because if you state or invite people at 7, then you're going to, you know, 15 minutes or 30 minutes before the appointment. Also in Japan actually, yeah, and that's I think a positive or negative is depend on the setting. Yeah, Indonesia didn't want to be precise, didn't want to be more expected actually. So it's quite easy actually to dealing with uncertainty actually for our people, because uncertainty is a good one. How do you call it uncertainty a good one? For example, if you have phonist from the doctor that you have a cancer, then you have you know, to spend for chemotherapy for 3 years, then you're going to be severe for that, suffer for that, because you know your destiny, you know your fate. But Indonesia is not going to easily to accept that. After go to the doctors, then I'll go to the medicine man, or even go to the church, go to the mosque, and asking for the chief leader of the religion there, and they have a discussion, and they combine between the belief and the traditional and medical, and some of them are still alive because of the belief, because for example, the belief if increase your immune, and the immune will be, you know, maybe help a lot for the pathogen in your body, and you're going to be helped. Yeah, and that's how we analyze about our society from the cultural construct, yeah, from the uncertainty avoidance. This is why if you go, or if someday you are going to go to Indonesia, for example, in inline behavior or queuing behaviors, sometimes it's not going to happen a lot, yeah. Especially maybe it's going to happen in Jakarta or in some high restaurant, yeah, high expensive restaurant, but not in very low society or low income society, because the uncertainty avoidance very high, and they don't want to be precise, because if they're precise and they know the fate, then they are not going to survive. It's part of the defense of mechanisms. Yeah. And many people also very happy in Indonesia. So for example, if you go to Singapore, if they're in Singapore, so you can cross the street, you have to find the crossroad or pelican bell. Yeah. But in Indonesia, you just take a look around and there is no one, no police, no, and you can just cross. And people happy about that. Yeah. That's actually how to see the characteristic of cultural construct in its country will be different, and also will be very careful about negative or positive in order to see the impact. Yeah, I think that's all. I hope you can understand the point of the presentation, because my English is not good. But thank you for Pak Adi, because I don't want also to lose my English, so I accept this challenge from Pak Adi. Yeah. Thank you, Pak Adi. Maybe we can discuss. Maybe we can discuss with the students. I would be
thank you, Mr.
very welcome to have any questions.
Then Pak Ananta mentioned that the clinical psychology impact for come from COVID-19 is depression and anxiety, and
Yes.
from research, it is found that 67% of the respondents of that research around 2000 experience anxiety, while 27 of them experience depression. Well, the impact of clinical psychology is the direct impact of the COVID-19. While the indirect impact, which is called the social psychology impact, are bullying, then grief because of the loved one or deaths, paranoia, then negative stigma, meaning this mainly occurs for those who are doctors or nurse, that the community surrounding them see that they are negative because they are close to the COVID-19 patients. And then the last one is the domestic violence increase, which occurs because of the economic stress condition. Because people are sick or are fired, then people are getting depressed or getting stressed, and then it will stimulate their aggressive behavior, and it makes the domestic violence, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I give you an opportunity for question and answer, asking for Pak Ananta. Please type your questions in the chat room, chat section. Any questions? Because psychological impact is something interesting, because some of us might face this one. And as a human beings, it is naturally, it is common to face this kind of a psychological impact, ya, Pak?
Yeah, indeed. Correct, Pak. I believe also it happened in other countries, yeah? And maybe we can discuss with the students about the psychological impact in their own countries. Maybe they could, the story about what happened in their country during in COVID-19.
Okay, please. So I will limit the time till 3:30, ya, Pak. So we have 30 minutes discussion.
Okay.
Okay. First question from Catherine from Lyceum University, Batangas, Philippines. How can we deal with feelings of inadequacy while working from home and studying from home?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Can I answer it now?
Yes, yes, direct.
Okay, thank
One
you,
by one.
Catherine. Yeah, from the Philippines. Good questions, very excellent questions. How dealing with inadequacy while we are working from home. It was quite difficult to answer actually, but I would like to tell a story about myself, yeah, and also my students. Recently, we have a scale to measure about the students, how do you call it? The student time to work, about the assignment actually. And in faculty, I am now the first vice dean who dealing with the academic problems. And I checked out all the problem of student problem during the study from home. Yeah, also friend of mine as colleagues in my faculty who also a lot of time working from home. First, the story about the students. They are very, very complain about the assignment. Yeah, they said that, oh, we have no time to learn about the assignment because the way the assignment give and also the deadline is very short. Yeah, a lot of them talking about that. Then we are from the faculty have like a skill. Please fill the questionnaire and don't mention about your name or the registered students. Just state how hard it was, the assignments. And you know, the result is very high. Yeah, they are complaining about the assignments. Then we discussed about the how do you call it, the level of assignments. Actually, it's the same from the assignment at COVID, working from home, and assignment from school or from our faculty when they are in class face to face with the lecturer. Yeah. So also happen in our college. They also complaining, yeah, because I'm the first vice deans. They're complaining to me because Ananta, because we have to change into online, and I have 24 hours to students because many students contact the teacher or the lecturer or professor at really late night because they don't have any time because tomorrow they have to submit the paper. Yeah, then there's complaining. So what we can learn from these two cases? First, about the self-management. Yeah, the lecturer, the professor, also the student have a good time management, meaning they really have work very smartly. Yeah, it's not about the adequacy about time, but adequacy about the skill of time management. Yeah. So for example, some teachers very smart, they have limited consultation for their paper, for example. Okay, guys, you have only 30 minutes. Before 30 minutes, you can send us in WhatsApp group about your questions. Then 30 minutes, we're going to discuss or are going to explain my answer about the question on WhatsApp group. Yeah, it's very effective on that. And we know many people or many our colleagues do this kind of as well. Yeah. But in students, there are two kind of not lack of adequacy of the self-management, but also the situation, the setting, because their setting of study is at home, where they or he or she at home. Actually, the situation is totally different from when he or she study at campus or at school or at faculty. Yeah. In psychology, namely locomotions, the motions, the place will be influence you. Yeah. So if you're feeling adequacy, I think it's just because not you are really inadequate in skill or inadequate in following the lecture, but maybe because of the influence of the setting. So how to deal with this? It's quite easy actually. First, you have to set your room, yeah, exactly the same or exactly style like in school. Yeah, for example, me, I try to resemble my table and also my computer when I'm in office. So when I sit down in my chair and in front of my table, actually I feel look like in my office. It is very important psychologically. Unconsciously, the setting will be very influence you, yeah, namely locomotions. Yeah, it's also happen actually psychologically when you have fight with your parents as the figure of an authority. Then you go to school and you're dealing with your lecturer as the figure of authority. You also get fight with the teacher without any explanations, because actually you just move from the problem in home, you bring it into the school, or in our terminology, we call it like work-family conflict. Some conflict in family, you can transform into work, or some problem in the work, you can transfer it into home or family. Yeah, so work interfere family or family interfere work. And in your case, actually, your problem in home actually can be transferred in school, or problem in school transferred in your home. Yeah, that's the second. But the first one, actually, when you feel about the adequacy, please realize that our setting will be influenced in our feeling of adequacy or not adequacy. Yeah. Second one, try to find it out or try to figure out that or believe that you are good at that you are good at the lecture, or you are good follow the lecture, even though a lot of obstacle, for example. Yeah. If you find the video from a student from Malaysia, actually he have to dealing with the problem with the connection of the internet. So every day in the morning he have to climb the hill, and sometimes even though he reached top of the hill, it still get no connection, and he have to have a good clever solutions. Then look for the highest tree, and they climb the tree, or she climbed the tree, just only to, how to call it, to have a good connections. And finally, he could finish the exams, and how do you call it? He offered by the famous university in Malaysia, and he offered by the full scholarships. And it's a good story actually, how people fight for feeling inadequacy. Yeah. And I think the key on that case is that he moved from the house from that hill, because when he or when she at hill, yeah, at the top at hill, at the top at the tree, actually, he feel like in school, and that's most important thing. When you feel at the school, then you act like school or students. Then you're going to study like other student in real school, not in virtual school, and that's very important in psychological perspective. Yeah, the very famous psychological scientist, yeah, namely don't remember. Yeah, not Colbert, yeah, but from the environmental psychology theory, yeah, about the locomotion. Lewin, from Germany. Actually, the background is not psychology, but physics. But he developed the field theory, namely the field theory. And the hypothesis is that people always influenced by the existing environment. So the question is, the behaviors equal to the functions of people and the interaction with the environment. So the environment is very important. So I give you suggestion for all the students to set of your room like in the office or like in your school. So when you are in that setting, then you're going to act like that setting. Yeah, that's for me that I can give you advice, a small advice to how to dealing with the inadequacy, especially when you are study at home or working at home.
Thank you, Pak.
Yep.
Then another question from Randy. You mentioned about cultural constructs. Compared to the European countries you have visited, how can we adopt a cross-cultural work or study space?
Yeah. Cultural construct and adopt about the, I think it's quite difficult. Yeah. I prefer to tell my story when I'm in Netherlands, actually. I'm very Japanese Indonesians people. When I first time in overseas is Netherlands, which is totally different and totally contradictory with my culture. I give you a little story. First, when I want to go to my friend's house, I remember at that time, my friends is very angry with me because I don't have any appointment before I visit her or him, because usually they need, they need like the appointment, yeah, or even with my professor, because sometimes they also angry with me because when we are walking together in Ingang or in the street or in LA, for example, I always try to, discuss about, how about the serotonin and 5-pentahydroxytryptophan and suddenly, Ananta, we are not in office because we are in Ingang or in Ireland. So please, it's totally different. Yeah, they agree because I visit him or her. Yeah, they agree because I talk about something academic, but it's not in academic. How do you call it? In academic setting. Yeah. Then I realized that if you want to survive in other country, then you have to follow about whatever the how do you get over the value, try to adapt in ourselves. And of course, it takes time, it takes acceptance, it takes how do you call it? Takes like the Kubler-Ross here, frustration, depressions. Yeah. For example, about the achievement, about the how do you call it? Uncertainty avoidance. If you use the Max Planck standard, if you use the how do you call it? German standard or Netherlands standard about the time, then you are very frustrated from Asian people, especially from Indonesians, from people who live in Ecuador, sunny, sun every day is almost the same. And you have to be very punctual, even you have to go to the class maybe 30 minutes or 45 minutes before the class over, and always try to read a lot of journal before you come in is totally different. But I think it's really nice for us to adapt. Yeah, there are two kind of adaptations. First, we call it adjustment, and the other one is adaptations. Adjustment meaning you're going to change the environment, the society around you. Yeah. For example, I'm from Indonesia. I just speak Indonesia and English. I don't speak German or French. Then when I can have respect from all of the department, when I'm coming in room, they're going to speak in English. Yeah. But I'm go out, then a friend of mine, a professor will be speak in the language. So sometimes Germany, sometimes French, because this is from Belgium, and Belgium actually speak French, half speak Dutch, Limburg. Yeah, it means we could change actually. Yeah, that's the only thing that I could change, because the respect to me, I'm from outside of Netherlands. I couldn't speak German, I couldn't speak French. So everywhere when I go inside of the room, they're going to speak in English. I'm very thankful about that. Yeah, and the other one is adaptations. There is no other way that I have to could speak Netherlands. Yeah, otherwise a lot of problem. Yeah, then I have to change myself to speak a little bit Dutch or Limburg. Yeah, that's two options. You have to change your society. At least they understand why you have to choose that kind of behavior. And the other one is you have to change yourself in order to adapt, in order to survive. Otherwise, you are not fit to the society, and we are not going to survive. Yeah, and that's the very unique of the human psychological, that we could have, what do you call it? Adaptations, also adjustment. Yeah, due to stress theory Lazarus. Yeah. So, for example, if you feel very cold in your room, there are two alternatives. First, you have to get used to it with that kind of cold. Yeah. First, it's going to be hard, denial, frustration, depression, and you accept, oh, it's never mind, it's as usual that I'm very cold. Or otherwise, you have to change the room. Yeah. Go to the remote control and take the remote control into the lower one. I mean, the higher temperature. Yeah. So there are two kinds. You can change or give the other people understanding about your behavior, or the otherwise you can, or you have to change ourselves. That's the way my adaptations and the way to adaptation. And how about the COVID? Actually, I would like to relate with the COVID. I think it's also a matter about adjustment or adaptations. Yeah, and the answer is about, are we going to survive or not during this pandemic? Sometimes we have to change our setting or our environment meaning we have to adjust. And sometimes we have to adapt ourselves in order to follow the protocol. Yeah, and that's all, Pak Edi.
Thank you, Pak, for the answer. Now to Randy's question. Now there is a question from Sandrex. How leaders can maximize trust and minimize stress during the COVID-19 pandemic? So it's about leaders.
Leaders are, excuse me?
Leaders, pimpinan.
Leaders.
Yeah, leaders.
Yeah, leaders, how to make strength and stress, yeah, to avoid stress. Okay, leadership during in pandemics, especially in what do you call it, in pandemic era, yeah, is quite difficult because as a leader, she or he have to make decisions. Sometimes quite difficult decisions. I also have a consultant. I've consulted with some company and communicate with some leaders that actually got the problem because of the COVID. So for example, one company have to make decision whether he have to stop the production or otherwise he have to resize the amount of the productions without any fired any how do you call it, any employee. Yeah, and that's very tough for the leader in company. How to make a strong company? The strong leader is not can be measured from his decision or his profit, because sometimes it's not what we call it the North Star parameter for the leader. The good leader, the strong leader, is the leader who could successfully dealing with failure or failure. Yeah. When he got failure, what is going to happen with his decision, and what will be the leader do, or any program that is going to recover of the wrong decision or problem. Yeah. So the failure will be make leader strong. So we need problem. You know, a proverb that problem actually is opportunity in disguise. So people should love problem because every problem has an opportunity, even it's still in disguise. Yeah. So the thing is that you have the problem, you have opportunity in disguise. Yeah. So for example, in our leadership in faculty, for example, in Ubaya, for example, we have more than 5 years actually try to change our delivery method into online. So we call it flip class or mixed class, for example, but it's quite difficult. Yeah. But after the COVID, yeah, no one could change. No one could how do you call it? Predict that suddenly all of the lecture should have no choice. Yeah, to use the online method. Yeah, we are very happy about that. Yeah. Then how to dealing with stress? Yeah. As a leader, actually, the good leader actually people who could dealing with the failures, but also could have brave heart in dealing with the stress. Stress is very human. Stress is very natural. You are not avoid the stress. You are not deny the stress. Yeah, the emotion, the fear, the boredom, the frustrations, the depression should be accepted as human natural, but never used as how to call it as consideration to make any important decisions. Yeah, that's I think the key. How people dealing with the stress is not to how do you call it, to fight the stress, but he accept the stress, he accept the fear, they accept the emotion of anger, and he could separate it. Yeah, we call it subjective, the objectified. We are very subjective, but when we are make a decision, we are very objective. Yeah, that's how to dealing with the stress actually. In the psychological thing, we call it the split of experience. So some leaders actually quite difficult to accept this stress because they can't follow the stress. They just follow the fear. They just follow the anger, and usually has no good decision at all. So if you ask me how to dealing with this stress, I have no idea how to deal with this, because the best thing to deal with stress is to accept that stress, to feel that stress, and you can see how strong you are. Yeah, you have to empower, or we have to empower ourselves to accept that stress. Yeah, in order to have acceptance. Actually, the sooner we accept that stress, so the better our decision. So I give you, for example, in the very easy situations. For example, if you are a leader in a company and you have two choices and you have two decisions, very difficult decisions. You go to trial and state that you are bankrupt. Yeah, then you lost all of your responsibility, because the curator will be dealing with that. Yeah, or the other one, you have other alternative that maybe you have still protection, but it's very limited. But you have to make your employee believe that the company will be not closed, and only the salary will be cut off maybe 50% or more than 50%, but maybe in next year. And that's the art of to make a belief in our employee. Yeah, and if you are followed by the fear that you can deal with the employee, fear that you can plan of the belief in your employee, controlled by your fear, controlled by anger about the situations, then you're going to choose the easy one. Yeah, go to trial and complete that you are bankrupt, and everything is done by curator. Yeah, and that's the answer. Yeah, about the strong and how dealing with the stress. The thing is that I would like to emphasize that the emotion sometimes is nothing to do with the emotion. Just enjoy the emotion, even though you are grief, even though you are in sadness or you are in fear. Try to understand that the fear is very normal, and in certain time you can control them, you can accept them as experience that is very precious. So the sadness, the agony is also precious experience, because from that agony you can feel the happiness, for example. And that's a life actually. Yeah, gitu Pak Adi. Thank you.
Okay. Next question from Elmerson Jensi Agontilo from Lyceum too. We are on a 6-month ongoing lockdown, which
Yes.
made it almost impossible to earn money and make a living for most of families affected. Because of this, they risk their lives and go out despite the government's health protocol. Is it acceptable for other people to blame them, even if they only do it for their survival, to find for food sources that are mostly financially dependent?
Yeah. Okay. We learned from Indonesia a case of lockdown. Actually, we don't do lockdown policy. Yeah, limited social restriction actually. Why is limited? Because we not totally locked down, meaning nobody in out, because many of them are still in out, but very limited. Yeah. In my idea, actually, if you are locked down, so the government would really need a lot of money, a lot of support in order to success the lockdown for 14 days, for example. Yeah, but for 6 months, I think it's quite should be how do you call it? Should be Yeah, it's impossible actually, in theoretically, because 6 months you never go out will be loss of contact. Yeah? It's what we call by in psychology, almost when people in jail, there are a lot of phenomena, namely deprivation relative. People lack of stimulations and develop mental disorder. Yeah, so we can see in so many cases, people who live in jail actually develop mental disorder because of deprivation relative, meaning the people or the person lack of stimulations, lack of stimulation of from the social stimulation, lack of how do you call it? For example, light stimulations, yeah, smell stimulations, muscular stimulations, which is very dangerous because it's going to develop a mental disorder. So that is why in my take-home visits, I emphasize that it's going to be worsening. It's possibly if the pandemics will be longer and the society it's still in stage 2 or still stage 1, still denial or even more have denial. Yeah, but in reality, actually, even though we are locked down, I believe you are still could communicate with other people. We will still have other food, hopefully. Yeah. So actually, it's not totally locked down, but you are still have communicate. So, for example, if you see in the Facebook or Line or at the social media, people in Italy, for example, they have lockdown for almost 3 months, and every afternoon they go outside, yeah, in front of hacienda or how do you call it, the balcony, and say hey together every afternoon. And it's actually is very interesting for me, yeah, because this is actually how to dealing with the how do you call it, lack of lack of stimulations of deprivation relative, yeah, relative deprivation we call it, yeah. It's almost like people in jail. Usually after they went out from jail, they're going to develop like antisocial, yeah, or depressed or any other mental disorders like schizophrenia. Yeah, actually for 6 months without any contacts, without any supply of food, is not very human. I know what happened in Philippines, but I believe the leader have no choice for that. Yeah. Then what you have to do is to empower yourself and empower community that they're going to adapt or they're going to adjust. Yeah. How to make people stronger mentally or make people accept what the condition, even though they have to deal with very or the worst conditions, and they have to try to accept it. When they accept, they have like how do you call it? We call it optimism. I give you a very extreme example. If you study about psychology and you study about logotherapy, in German there is a very good story by Viktor Frankl, the founder of optimism. Frankl actually one of the victim of Holocaust, and every day he has to see about people, you know, killing people in that situation on Nazi camp, yeah, on the Nazi camp. And just because he accept that, then suddenly he feel like what we call by optimism. Yeah, he very optimistic that someday he's going to be over, but he needs to be very accepted about that, the how do you call it, about that situation. Yeah, so acceptance is very important. Once again, this the fourth or the third stage, this one, yeah, the acceptance is a will stimulate the optimism. Yeah, so I believe people in your area who have been maybe locked down in 6 months, which is very difficult to find money, difficult to look for the food, even water maybe. Yeah, but when you accept that, I believe that due to the theory of the Viktor Frankl of logotherapy, you're going to have a lot of optimism. And optimism means hope. And people can live without hope. Yeah, that's all, Eddie.
Thank you. Interesting, Pak.
Yep.
Thank you. I think we come to the conclusion because it's also due to the time. It's already 3:30, so we have been with Pak Ananta for 2.5 hours. So yeah, time flies when
Yes.
Pak Ananta talks.
Can I have some word to the students?
Yes, please, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Adi. Thank you very much for your attention with the Upaya summer course. Yeah, we hope that someday you can visit our campus in Surabaya and interact with us face to face. And I can bring you to the beautiful city of Surabaya, also the beautiful country of Indonesia, hopefully someday. And I think I'm very appreciative with your spirit you in learning other culture, in learning other subject or other lecture. Yeah. There are a lot of summer courses actually, not only in Indonesia, but also in Europe. For example, in German, you can go to Max Planck Institute, which is very good institution there, and also in Netherlands, Upaya, for example, they also have connection with the Maastricht University and also other university, for example, in Strasbourg, yeah, Pak Adi, yeah, we also have relation with the Strasbourg University, and every years we, at least in psychology, there are 2 classes, usually 12 or even more students from Maastricht, from Strasbourg, from Groningen. Usually, student from Maastricht actually coming from German, so Düsseldorf and Köln and other area. So please, you are welcome to be our international student if you want. I believe that the party will be more than welcome to accept you as a foreign student in our faculty. So you can choose many faculty in our university. There are medicine, there are faculty of psychology, technique, pharmacy, law, economic. Yeah. So you are welcome to our campus. Thank you, Pak Adi.
Thank you. Yeah, I already welcomed them on the first place during the opening. So I welcome them once the coronavirus is gone. Then please contact me if you are interested coming to Ubaya, where you can also have the opportunity to see Indonesia. And tomorrow I will also talk about Surabaya and Indonesia itself.
Oh, it's nice.
I will show them about how wonderful is Indonesia.
Show them, please.
Yeah, I will. Thank you, Pak, anyway.
Thank you,
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for your attention after the 2.5 hours. Then we will meet again tomorrow morning at 10 and at 1. So thank you and see you tomorrow, guys.
See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye all.
Bye, sir.
See you.